Uragaan is a brute wyvern introduced in Monster Hunter Tri. He is pretty big, with a large chin and golden crystals on his back. Occasionally when discussing monsters that originated in Tri, I use footage from that game, for the sake of authenticity, but also because sometimes the monster is different compared to 3 Ultimate, like with Barioth. In this case though, Uragaan is almost identical in both Tri and 3 Ultimate. There are 2 primary methods in which Uragaan performs his attacks, slamming his chin like a hammer and rolling around while curled up. He will always smash his chin twice when roaring, but also on other occasions, he will either perform a single slam or chain 2 to 4. Uragaan can also perform a smash with more wind-up, which causes massive tremors. In terms of rolling, Uragaan curls up and takes off, rolling around the arena. When enraged, he can roll for longer distances, and when exhausted, he will sometimes fall over, since he doesn't have the strength to maintain his momentum. In Area 6 of the 3rd generation volcano, Uragaan can perform an exclusive attack where he digs up to a nearby cliff and rolls down, using his momentum to roll around the whole area for a while. He can toss volcanic rocks with his tail by swinging it around. They will explode after enough time has passed, or by being hit with an attack. In addition to this, he can expel either fiery or sleep gas from his body. In Portable 3rd onwards, Uragaan's back can be mined whenever he falls over. This game also introduces a subspecies, the Steel Uragaan. This one is coloured blue, with a bright orange chin. He generally has the same abilities, but he and the rocks he throws can expel stench gas that prevents you from healing. He can throw rocks with his tail and immediately detonate them with a chin slam too. In 3 Ultimate, Uragaan is able to chain a roll into a powerful chin slam. Steel Uragaan also has this new combo, but he can expel his stench gas at the same time. His stench rocks are also much larger. Uragaan skipped Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate completely, but returned for Generations. In this game, he is pretty much identical to how he was in Tri and 3 Ultimate. In fact, you could almost say he's too identical. Monster Hunter 4 introduced greater verticality into the series with its new maps, and some of them are in Generations, including the Volcanic Hollow, where you can now fight Uragaan. In Area 8, there's a massive cliff that you can jump down or climb up. It's possible for monsters to access you on both planes either by climbing or flying, such as with Brachydios or Gravios. Uragaan was not given a climbing animation, so there is no way for him to access you, so you can just stand on the cliff and avoid the rocks he launches at you. In G rank, he is also identical to his previous 3 Ultimate G rank iteration. His steel subspecies did not return, but Uragaan did get a deviant, Crystalbeard Uragaan. Crystalbeard is larger than average, darker in colour, and his chin is covered in crystals. In terms of abilities, he has access to stronger chin slams and G-rank Uragaan's roll to chin slam combo. He can send out explosive rocks, but occasionally one of them can be a mineable crystal that expels sleep gas. Crystalbeard can use his chin to dig rocks out of the ground. In later deviant quests, he can expel explosive rocks while rolling. Uragaan returned for Monster Hunter World, but before we get to him, I want to briefly go over Radobaan, a fellow brute wyvern introduced earlier in the game. Radobaan lives in the Rotten Vale, and is covered in bones that are stuck to him. He has similar abilities to Uragaan, and is distantly related to him. Underneath all the bones, they look pretty much identical. Radobaan has Uragaan's roll to chin slam, and he can expel sleep gas only. He is greatly more agile when rolling, being able to pause and immediately turn around into another roll in the opposite direction. He can also do this really sick sideways roll, and he can dig his chin into the ground, up or right and left. Rather than tossing rocks, Rado throws fragments of bone that shatter on the ground. Dealing damage to him will break them off his body, which causes him to lose his grip on the ground when he's rolling and start doing this weird slow roll. He can replenish his bone armor by rolling around on the ground, which is possible because the Rotten Vale is filled with corpses. In Iceborne, more of his attacks will send out bone fragments, and he can chain more attacks together. Now back to Uragaan. In World, he has pretty much all his old attacks from the older games. Like G-rank Crystalbeard, he leaves rocks behind as he rolls that later explode. His hip check can also drop them. He can't turn or do sideways rolls like Radobaan. Instead, he simply rolls the way he normally does. However, he can turn around in certain areas of the Elder's Recess by rolling onto the walls to gain momentum in order to turn the other way. In Iceborne, Uragaan's rocks are now much bigger, and when he rolls in them, he becomes consumed by fire, allowing him to deal even more damage, and he can launch rocks with even more attacks. I've never been fond of Uragaan. I fought him for the first time in Monster Hunter Portable 3rd, and I found him really unpleasant. I kept bouncing off his chin, and the tremors were really irritating to deal with, but nowadays I don't find him so bad. He is like an alternate take on Gravios, a big heavy tank that can expel gas, except Uragaan can rapidly roll rather than shoot a laser. I feel like his subspecies in Deviant could have been a bit more creative. Still, Uragaan's only big difference is that he uses stench rather than sleep, and Crystalbeard is probably one of the most worthless deviants I've ever seen. Compared to a lot of monsters introduced in the 3rd generation onwards, they're not very creative. Radobaan in World is the first alternate take I've seen on Uragaan that's actually different, but still fun. His different types of rolls are really fun to deal with, and it's nice seeing him somewhere other than the volcano. I think in future I'd like to see him again, although his ecology seems to make him quite limited to the Rotten Vale, since he needs bones to be able to move and attack. Which Uragaan is your favourite? Let me know in the comments. Remember to like and subscribe, and have a good day.